The best defense in the Pac-12 in Cal.
They are number one in rushing, number one in scoring, led by Justin Wilcox.
Quickly it's intercepted. Who else but Daniel Scott?
Tipped up into the air, and Cal picks it off.
Ward takes it in for the Cal touchdown.
Lobs it toward the end zone, and it's caught. Kaleki Latu.
Bouncing to the outside goes Chris Street to score for Cal. And for California, what a big game.
What a spectacular Saturday afternoon in Berkeley at the base of Strawberry Canyon. Welcome to Memorial Stadium and the California Football Spring Showcase presented by Carvana. As the Cal Bears will get after it today on the field, along with Yogi Roth, Roxy Bernstein with you. And Yogi, for a Cal team, they're feeling pretty good about themselves after a very productive spring.
Yeah, it's really optimistic. And this is a team, when they took stock of what happened last year, they said we lost 5 games by 1 score or less. So Justin Wilcox, the head coach, told his team prior to spring ball, that might be 5 plays, and we have double-digit wins. So it's a focus group, some important and impressive fresh faces, but also I think a nice nucleus of vets.
Well, some of the key fresh faces that moved into Cal this season, as you look at potentially the new starting quarterback for Cal, Jack Plummer. So some key additions that Cal brought in.
I think Jack Plummer is a huge addition to this program. He's a pure passer, right? This is a West Coast system with Bill Musgrave. I think he's going to be able to deal. I love the wideouts he can throw to. Xavier Carlton, this is a transfer from Utah. He played in a lot of big games, a lot of growth and depth from him within this program. So I'm excited to watch Jack play, Xavier, and then, of course, we saw on the back end, Jackson Sermon, right? This was the leading tackler at Washington. His dad's the DC. A lot of important key vets.
Well, Justin Wilcox, the California head football coach, joining us here as we get ready for the start of the California Spring Showcase. No need to hear more about it from us, Justin. How has the spring been for you to this point?
It's been great. I mean, the number of guys who've taken a huge leap forward from last year to now has been really impressive, and we're going to have a number of new starters on both sides of the ball, but we feel really good about the talent on the roster.
All right, so how about QB1? I know you haven't necessarily mentioned one to be the starter, but Jack Plummer, we're going to be talking about him all afternoon. What have you noticed from him in 14 practices?
Well, he's picked it up very, very quickly. He's a very, very sharp guy and talented passer, so feel really good about Jack and the growth he's made in just a few short months. And Kai Milner is also a guy that's taken a huge step forward. Feel really good about him as well. Kai's a talented young guy, just doesn't have that much experience, but really glad both of them are on the roster.
You have a lot of weapons on the outside, some inexperience there too in receiver. How have you seen that group progress throughout the spring?
Yeah, Burl Toller's done an amazing job with that group, recruiting and then developing those guys. I mean, there's a lot of talent in that room. I mean, there's 6-7 guys that can help us win games, and they just don't have a lot of experience. So spring ball's been good for them. Today will be great for them, and obviously summer and fall will be key.
A world exists where Brett Johnson could have heard his name this weekend during the NFL draft. He's back. He seems healthy. What can fans expect to see from one of the best players in the conference?
I think what they saw a couple years ago. Brett's a very talented young guy. He's extremely physical and tough, and he's rebounded incredibly well from a pretty serious injury. And he's been out here in spring football, really hasn't missed a beat from 2 years ago. And we've held him back a little bit just because he's the type of guy that's going to push it as far as he can, but really glad Brett's back with us.
It's part of a great front you have defensively, Justin. You had to battle through some injuries last year, just trying to hold it together, especially on the line. But how do you feel about your front seven here wrapping up the spring?
Feel really good about them. Again, the D-line is a little bit like the receiver group. There's a lot of talented guys in there, just a number of them haven't played a whole lot. Andrew Browning's done a great job, again, recruiting and developing that group. And then the inside backer position, now that's where you got more guys with game experience and some productive players. I mean, there's a number of guys who played quite a few snaps and feel strong there.
Coach, we talked earlier this week. You go back and reflect on last season. 5 losses by a score or less. You talked to your team about that. Might be just 5 plays away from a different record.
Yep.
How have they responded? Where do you see the maturity of the group?
Well, I think the urgency showed up in the offseason. I mean, they realize it. I think we always want to be looking forward, but we need to learn from the lessons of the past. And last year taught us a lot of lessons, and how close these games can be, and the margins of you know, winning and losing in our conference are so small. So I thought the urgency in the offseason was evident, and then the competitiveness in spring ball has been unmatched.
But the way you were able to finish the season, how much that give you some momentum heading into the offseason to clobber Stanford, to beat USC to wrap up your season?
Yeah, again, it goes to kind of the culture of the team and what those guys are about. They never really hung it up, so to speak. I mean, started off with a poor record, and these guys have continued to fight and work throughout the season, finish strong, and now we need to, you know, capitalize on a strong spring ball and grow as we get into fall camp.
Can't wait to watch it today, Justin. Appreciate your time. Enjoy it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Justin Wilcox, the head coach of the California Golden Bears. What'd you take out of that?
I'm excited for this program. Like, we've been to a lot of these campuses as we conclude all of spring ball here in this league. This team's positioned to take a run, right? The North, I think we'd agree, is wide open. A lot of unanswered questions across that division. I'm excited for this team. I think the trajectory is high. I know the last 2 years' records aren't what Cal fans want, but there's a lot of elements that go into that, especially those 5 plays that maybe they make. I think they might have the playmakers to make it, and they got one of the more talented front sevens in the league.
We'll take a peek at the 2022 California Golden Bears. The Spring Showcase about to get going from Memorial Stadium in Berkeley. Can't wait to get it started right here on Pac-12 Network. Pac-12 Spring Football is presented by Carvana, the new way to buy a used car. Sailboat in full force on the bay, celebrating the Spring Showcase today.
Dude, we got some people here. This is fun. I love this weekend, right? Big weekend with the NFL draft, big weekend with the NIL world and the portal world, big weekend in spring football for the Bears.
Don't get me started on the NIL.
We got 2 hours, bro. We got time.
We don't need to go there right from the get-go today. So this is what you were talking about, and we were talking about with Justin Wilcox, Yogi, about these tough one-possession losses. Start the season, dominate the first quarter against Nevada, got away from them. Leading at TCU, slipped away. The Washington game, the heartbreaker in overtime, where Cal was going in for the tying score in overtime, fumbles at the 1-yard line. The Oregon game, Cal was in a strong position to win that one, and we know what happened in the game in Tucson. No need to revisit that one.
Yeah, well, the thing that I love about this graphic for Justin Wilcox is that it paints a very clear picture as a motivator, which is one of the many jobs that head coach has. It's just put this graphic on the big screen in the team room and say, guys, we're 5 snaps away. And a lot of them, to me, when I look at this team, I say they missed on explosive plays to a degree last year. I mean, this is a team that had 53 explosives, right? I mean, at 20 yards or more, chunk plays down the field. When I look at the wideouts and the tight ends and the size they have, I see touchdowns in the red zone. I see explosive plays downfield. And I think those wins, or those losses, could be that position group. That's where my eyes are going to be glued, because I want to see if they can make plays, right? There's cameras here, there's fans here. The 3 other receivers you referenced, they made plays in the big game, in big moments, against Oregon in a win. If you look at Remigio on that corner route 2 years ago. I want to see Jeremiah Hunter. I want to see J. Michael Sturdivant. I want to see Maven Anderson, Tommy Christakos, this tight end group. God, they're massive. And I know that their offense, their quarterback, their offensive coordinator, they are excited about this group. Bill Musgrave, if they can get the run game, pass protection going, play action passes, it's going to be a big year for whoever ends up winning that quarterback job.
That is Jack Plummer in a battle with Kai Milner to see who will be the starting quarterback and have all these weapons at their disposal. More to come as we're getting ready to start in Berkeley. A look at Memorial Stadium. There is a good crowd on the west side right beneath us up here in the broadcast booth in Berkeley, along with Yogi Roth and our Pac-12 Network crew. Roxy Bernstein with you as they're going through some opening drills and getting ready for the California Spring Showcase.
A little 7-on-7 to warm it up. I love seeing some of these young players, big opportunity, wideouts, tight ends. I cannot wait to watch it. And the way that those receivers and playmakers have success, Roxy, and we know this, they got to run the rock. That's Burl Toller, the wide receiver coach. They got to run the football. If they can do that, set up the play action pass, I think this offense is going to be fun to watch in the Pac.
One of the assistant coaches on the offensive side, Aristotle Thompson, joining us. And I know you're involved in a big endeavor, Aristotle. We'll get to it in a second, helmets for helmets. But let's talk some football first. What have you liked about your running back group heading through the spring?
Well, it's been a lot of fun watching these guys this spring, seeing every person's growth out there and seeing them put the ball in the right spot and playing the game the way we talk about it here. And that's playing behind your pads, playing fast, playing for your quarterback, playing for your offensive line. You know, not making it about us, making it about everybody that we're playing for. They put the ball to us, right? We have responsibility. So they take care of the blocking, and we're going to do our job to make sure the ball's hitting the right spot and try to stretch the field for them.
All right, how about one of the newcomers to your group, Jaden Ott? A lot of noise around him, a lot of playmaking ability from him. What have you seen this spring?
Well, what I've seen is a level of maturity that you wouldn't expect to see from an early enrollee freshman. I mean, he's in the meeting room early, he's in there late, he's studying the playbook, he's coming back to the office late at night, grabbing me, and we're watching film. And then when I see it happen from there, it translates to the field. So you see him playing fast, you see him playing physical. I mean, he's in there, pass pro, picking up Femi, you know, picking up some of those veteran guys that have been around here. And so he's really resonating to everybody that, hey, he's a tough-nosed football player. He's not some, you know, hey, I'm the new kid on the block and everybody watch me. He's just doing his part. I mean, a couple weeks ago, he's walking out and giving all the offensive linemen water, you know, so it's been fun to have him from that maturity standpoint that he has, but it's also been fun because I think we added another level of speed to the running back room here. I mean, the kid can run.
Well, one steadying force, Aristotle, you have in the running back room is Damian Moore. What have you seen from him? Because physically, Aristotle, he looks different to me.
Yes, indeed. You know, we challenged Damian at the end of last season to work on his body, you know, to work to get into what a Division I Power 5 football player is supposed to be. You know, Damian is awesome running the ball, but we needed to get his body to match what his play is, and then we'll see his level of play elevate. And that's what we saw. He really started working hard with our strength conditioning staff, started working harder with our nutritionists as well, paying attention to what he's putting into his body, and we're seeing the fruits of his labor in there. And now, as we culminate spring practices here, the challenge is again to, okay, can we take it to another level? Can we take it to where you walk in a room and everybody knows that, oh, hey, that's a running back right there. You know, he's proud to walk around with his shirt off, you know, proud to walk up to people and say, yeah, I'm that guy.
All right, talking about taking it to another level, helmetsforhelmets.com. This organization began because of your son was dealing with epilepsy and seizures. Take us through the story of how you all came up with the idea of Helmets for Helmets, and then how it's grown over the course of the last few years.
Well, we came up with Helmets for Helmets really by my sons Brock and Bryson both wanting to give back to some other people that had helped us in dealing with Bryson's epilepsy and helped us out and kind of shoulder the burden a little bit. And so Brock and Bryson actually wanted me to start calling coaches that I knew and friends that I had that were in the NFL or various college teams and asked them for stuff. And I told them, I'm not going to call. You're going to have to do the ask. So I handed my phone over. They started calling different coaches and asking if they'd be willing to donate so they could raise money to help other kids with epilepsy. And so since then, you know, since the onset of that, we've had the opportunity to go on a number of national TV shows and really bring awareness to epilepsy. You know, and that was probably one of the biggest things that we aim to do is bring awareness to it. There's so many people that are dealing with epilepsy that don't talk about it. You know, it's kind of a taboo. And so for us, we're trying to stamp out the stigma of epilepsy, but also for us to be able to Helmets for Helmets to shoulder the burden that other families have. Some of the things that they're not able to pay for. You know, one of our big charges is getting helmets for kids with epilepsy. So in the event they have a seizure and they fall, they have protection on their heads. You know, it's one of those things that a lot of insurance companies do not cover. Those helmets can be anywhere from $500 to $2,000. And so we go directly to them. You know, there's no paperwork involved. They fill out a form. We buy the helmet, we get it decorated if they have a favorite sports team or if they just wanted a different color or whatnot, and we send it directly to them. There's no red tape, and that's what Helmets for Helmets aim to do is eliminate the stigma around epilepsy, cut out the red tape, and get people the help that they need directly so that these kids can be protected.
What's the feedback, Aristotle, you get when you talk to families and you help them out? What's the feedback you get and what are the conversations like after you being so helpful to families that are dealing with the similar situation you have to deal with?
Well, you know, really the feedback that is probably the most fulfilling is the conversation about the issues that they deal with on a daily basis. There's so many people who don't talk about what's happening with epilepsy. Parents think that it's something that they've done, something they've given their child. It's just our brains are operating differently, and there's so much unknown about epilepsy because there isn't a lot of funding for it. You know, and so parents are trying a new medication every couple of months, trying to figure out what's happening to their baby. And so when we give these parents the opportunity to talk openly to us about what's going on, now you start to formulate questions that you can talk to different doctors, and you have this whole community growing. So that part of it's probably been the biggest thing, and the various community supports, the professional athletes that have gotten involved with us, it's been heartwarming hearing that they're willing to give back and getting a chance to see that they're just regular people as well.
As a dad, what's it been like to watch Brock and Bryson lead this effort that has grown, as you just referenced?
Well, as a parent, you know, it means that your kids are listening and they're paying attention, that there's bigger things in the world than just what they want to do or what they want to have in front of them. You know, you see your kids willing to give back, willing to help other people. It's heartwarming. You know, I couldn't be prouder of my boys and what they have wanted to take on and that they're willing to run with it. So as a parent, I couldn't be more proud that they understand that, you know, the world is a bigger place than just the bubble that they live in.
Hounds took the initiative to do this. Thank you for sharing it. It's just awesome to hear.
We appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Yogi, Roxy, go Bears.
Go Bears. Dude, you got to check out their social media handle. There's a video of his son stroking a single, a lefty playing baseball. It's awesome, man. But what a great story. And you know, the football community always coming together to rally around and inspire and impact others.
But just pull yourself back for a second. Think about the situation. His two boys started this. They still are in single digits in age. Yeah. 8 and 6 when Brock and Bryson started this project. If you want to go to the website, helmets, the number 4, helmets.com. It is an amazing story, and it's remarkable what Aristotle and his family have done.
Yeah, they got to meet Kobe Bryant. They were on the Ellen Show, Kelly Clarkson Show, and I love the helmets they've gotten signed from Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. They've created a nice movement, and I know have supported so many families. Appreciated the time there.
So they're working on some special teams right now as the Spring Showcase getting going here in Berkeley. More to come from Memorial Stadium. Special teams right now. That's what Cal's working on with Yogi Roth and our Pac-12 Network crew. Roxy Bernstein with you. It's Justin Wilcox group working on punt return right now. But this is a group, as we're going to see things play out throughout the day. The special teams were solid. Cal's got Dario Longetto, the kicker, returning. Jamison Sheehan, the Aussie punter, who averaged over 43 yards a boot last year. This is Lamagia Hearns on the return. But I think special teams can be a weapon for Cal coming up this year.
Yeah, and I like how Justin Wilcox has approached it from a coaching standpoint. Remember, Charlie Ragle is now the head coach at Idaho State. He left, and he said now this year, instead of having just one coach overseeing it, it's a shared responsibility. So Aristotle Thompson, he leads the punt team. A variety of different coaches have different units. Burl Toller working on kickoff return. New coach Vic So'oto, he's working with on kickoff as well. So I think that they kind of evaluated and said, all right, how many kickoffs really get returned? Where do we have to put energy into each element of special teams, and strategized around that? And I like it when staffs do that, because then everybody's kind of a part of it. All your rooms are always a part of it as well.
So we're efforting having one of the most electric players in Cal history who returned to Berkeley. First time in a while yesterday. He was hanging around the football offices. And we welcome in. We were able to catch up with Deshaun Jackson. Not many people can. We caught him. Welcome back, Deshaun. How are you?
Good yourself. How you doing?
We're doing great. What's it like to be back?
Man, that's awesome, man. I was just sitting in the room, in the team meeting room, man. I was getting an interview, man. They started playing some old highlights, man. It gave me some goosebumps. I'm like, man, I don't want to do this interview no more. I'm ready to go on the field and play some ball, man. It's good, though, man. It's great to be back. Great to see a lot of, familiar faces that I was, once here with a long time ago.
When was the last time you came back? And, man, the chatter around you yesterday when you got back or signing a sign on the wall was incredible just online.
Yeah, shoot, man, it's been a while since I've been back. I want to say, I think it was like 2014 or 2015, I was actually playing the 49ers, and I had like a day off on Saturday, and they had a game here, and I actually came and seen the facility. I mean, when I tell you these facilities, I tell a lot of people that, when I was here, or before I got here, they used to always tell me, yeah, we got this new stadium that we about to get, and it took about 7-8 years, so now I'm finally able to reap the benefits of this beautiful stadium, man. It's a pleasure to come back, man.
Are you jealous that you didn't get to hang out in these facilities when you were here?
Slightly. I mean, our weight room was a lot smaller. We had like one rack of weights. Now they got like 100-foot long. Weight room. I mean, it's come on top of the top. But I'm slightly jealous. But man, it's great to have these young kids, man, here and able to reap the benefits of this locker room. Aaron Rodgers' locker room tips off to Aaron Rodgers. That's a heck of a locker room, Aaron Rodgers. I'm jealous about that.
What's it been like for you to walk around and meet these receivers? They got a young core that has a very high ceiling. I'm sure they had a lot of questions for you.
Right, yeah, man. Burrow Toller is actually a great friend of mine, man. When I came in, he was actually going out. Him, Jeff McArthur, J-Mac, a lot of them guys like that, man, were guys I looked up to. So to be able to come back and see him in the wide receiver room and coaching these young kids, man, and giving them hope, man, and just really train them, it's good. Like I told the young dudes, it's good to have a coach that played the game, because a lot of coaches I didn't, been coached by haven't played the game. So it's just a little bit easier to relate to a coach like that. But, man, they got some good talent here, man. I'm excited to see what these boys going to do today.
You played with some great talent yourself when you were here, not just your receiving room that had Lavelle Hawkins and Robert Jordan, but there was some great talent across the board.
Yeah.
But when you were able to electrify the crowd, whether it was the punt return against Tennessee or what you did against Stanford down on the farm, what was it like for you when you were able to get everybody just so hyped up when you were playing for Cal?
Man, you taking me back, man. You giving me goosebumps again. I ain't even watching the highlight. Honestly, man, it's great, man. A young guy like me just came from, South Central, Long Beach, California, man, played at Poly, and to be able to, like I told these dudes, man, a lot of these kids are going to the Alabamas, the Ohios, because, them are the schools, and them are the schools to be. But, be your own wave, man. Don't ride the wave. Create your own wave. And for me, I was able to leave SC and come to Cal and, create my own legacy here, man. It's a pleasure, man, just to be able to come back and see all the, everything I put in, the hard work I put on this field, man, and just now all these kids looking up to me and, what my career's been like, man, it's a pleasure. Anything I can give back to these young kids to, let them, make mistakes I didn't make, is what I'm here for, man, and that's the biggest thing I can say.
I know April of 2008 seems like a long time ago, but it was when you got drafted. It's draft weekend.
Yeah.
What's your memory of the day when you heard your name called?
I was a little frustrated. I thought I was gonna be a first rounder, but that's here or there. But man, it was great, man. It was a dream come true. Since a little kid, dreaming to play on the highest level of all. Being in the NFL, being able to be on that platform, and my name to be called by the Philadelphia Eagles, who when I came in, Donovan McNabb, Brian Dawkins, Brian Westbrook, I came into an organization that had a lot of legendary players. So for me to come into that, I knew right away what it takes, and that's why I was able to play a long career, man. 14 years in, and debating if I'm gonna play another year. But like I say, man, I done put a lot of hard work in on the field. I done made a lot of great plays. I could arguably be one of the best deep threats to ever play the game. So I'm just happy, man. I'm not satisfied yet. I still got some things I want to accomplish, but I feel great about it.
No argument from us about being one of the best deep threats we've ever seen in the NFL. Deshaun, thank you for stopping for us and giving us a few minutes.
Oh yeah, man. Y'all have a good time, man. Hopefully we can see the next talent that's going into the NFL from Cal, man. I'm stamping it now.
Deshaun Jackson, thank you.
All right, take care.
Great to see him back here.
Dude, I remember talking to former SC coach Pete Carroll about Deshaun in camp. He came to summer camp. He goes, no one did what he did on the practice for the wide receiver, even on our roster ever. He was that electric every time the ball went towards him.
So Jack Plummer engineering the offense here. That goes out to Jeremiah Hunter as we have the #1 offense against the #2 defense right now in this drill, as the offense getting on the plus side of the field. But I remember the shock that a lot of people had when Deshaun Jackson, everybody just assumed he was going to USC. It was a done deal. And then when he had the hats in front of him, because baseball was also an option if people remember, Deshaun was a terrific high school baseball player. You can imagine being an outfielder with that speed, being able to steal bases. But then all of a sudden he's on the set. I think there was an Angels hat, a Dodger hat, a USC hat, and he put the Cal hat on and people were stunned.
It was a huge moment for this program, and I just love the pride he has, and really what Justin Wilcox has done since he's been the head coach here as well. Bring back a lot of alum, a lot of key players. Aaron, for Cal's offense, they need to grow. It's exactly that. You saw tempo, you saw 2 tight ends, you saw receivers outside making plays. And look, we talked to Justin Wilcox earlier this week. The first thing he brought up was how excited he was about the receiving core that they have this year. And if Jack Plummer can deal, man, this offense is going to be able to move the rock.
Dario Longetto for the extra point after the touchdown pass to Maven Anderson. But Jack Plummer, Yogi, he completed 69% of his balls last year at Purdue. 7 touchdowns, no picks. And look, for whatever reason, he was the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. Purdue decided to make a switch, and that's what made it easy for Jack Plummer to put himself in the transfer portal and be a grad transfer and come to Cal.
Yeah, we had a chance to talk to him for a while yesterday after practice, and look, he just wanted to play. And said, hey, what were some of your other options? And he said, look, a lot of schools called me, but when I assessed it, I said, look, as a kid, one of my dreams was to play in this league. And he was just watching his brother start in this league, Will Plummer, of course, down in Arizona. And now he gets to come back to play in a league he grew up cheering for in an offense that I think fits him. Right, this is true pro-style offense, and he came from a very pro-style offense, so the learning curve isn't going to be dramatic for him. He's already graduated, so he's in the certificate program. His focus, his energy, the sense of urgency, I love it all for where he sits right now on this roster, and even the space between he and Kai Milner, I think, is a really healthy room.
Well, it's funny because Jack Plummer's from Gilbert, Arizona.
Yeah.
Now the number 2 offense, and Kai Milner running the number 2 offense today. He's also from Gilbert, Arizona. Now different high schools, but Kai would go up against Will Plummer nose to nose when they were back in high school.
Yeah, Higley High School, right? Versus, of course, Gilbert. And what's really cool is that both of these quarterbacks, they also know each other. And the same high school quarterback trainer, the same guy they'll go see in the offseason. So there's a relationship, and more importantly, a respect there from Kai Milner to Jack Plummer when Jack walked into the room, when he came into this facility. And that's why I speak to it. Like, we're in a world where, by the end of today, right, everybody's going to make their decision if they're entering the portal or not. I think the quarterback rooms that have a little breathing room in terms of a couple years, eligibility-wise, between the starting quarterback and the backups and the guys competing for the job, there's some room to breathe. I just think it makes for a healthier room, and I love where this Cal program sits right now at that position.
That's Jaden Ott, the early enrollee freshman from Chino, California, the 4-star recruit, with the ball carrier wrapped up by the Iosefa in the defense, but Justin Wilcox over there talking with Deshaun Jackson. But he's got some young talent with this team, and Ott coming in with Milner, going to be a nice mix, and they're going to push the guys in front of them, and it's neck and neck. And let's face it, Jack Plummer probably has the edge between the 2 quarterbacks because of his experience, but Kai Milner is still very much involved, and he is going to push and make Jack Plummer better. And they're going to feed off one another as you get through the summer and into fall camp.
And look, let's be straight up. Like, that's what Cal hasn't had when Chase Garber was the starting quarterback. And there wasn't a ton of competition for the position. He was the starter every year. So I think now with these 2 guys here, to your point, they'll make each other better, and that is a gravitational element within the entire program. You referenced running back. I think they got it there. Right, they have a starter in Damian Moore, a proven guy. DeCarlos Brooks, he can play. He's going to give them some legitimate carries. And I think Jaden Ott's got a chance to be that home run hitter they've lacked at that position. A guy that can break tackles and make a house call, catch it out of the backfield. All the creative things that they want to do in this offense. And when you have the tight ends that Cal has, I think it allows everything to be a little bit easier because now defenses have to match up personnel-wise to these big-bodied tight ends.
You mentioned the tight ends. We're probably not going to see Kaleki Latu today. He's got a big club on his hand, and he's been dealing with an injury, but he is in uniform, and we saw him actually catch passes despite having the club on his hand yesterday. But Jermaine Terry has really caught the coach's eye throughout the spring.
Yeah, and how about, there's so many elements to his story, right? Number one, you can't miss him, right? This guy's all a 6'4", 270, but he moves like he's 235 as you see the screen.
Chris Street, the catch and run for a first down.
Here's the two tight ends. Like, look at the size, right?
There's that club, by the way.
Yeah, Kaleki Latu, you see him there. He made some plays last year as a freshman.
Got a touchdown against Colorado.
That's right. So I think this group's going to be extremely impactful. And I think across the league, tight end is a massive theme. We've heard from some guys already getting drafted, right? Cade Otton got picked up earlier out of UW. Tegan Quatoriano got drafted today. And when you have the duo, it just allows you to do a lot. So to me, when I look at Jermaine Terry, this is a guy size-wise, and I'm just coming from Vegas in the draft. I'm saying, yeah, this dude, I could see him one day having the opportunity to go early in the NFL, and he has lost about 15 pounds, reshaped his body. We met with him yesterday for a while. He loves being a role model for this community. This is a guy who grew up locally, could have gone anywhere he wanted in the country, and he said, you know what, I'm going to rep my neighborhood, my hometown, and I love that element of him and bringing that pride to this program.
And the Richmond, California native, and you mentioned he could have gone anywhere. ESPN ranked him as the #1 tight end prospect coming out of high school, and he chose to stay home from Kennedy High School right here, just, 15 minutes down the road from Richmond, coming to Cal and having the opportunity. There were some guys in front of him. The last season, you look at Gavin Reinwald, decided a grad transfer, go to Rice. Colin Moore, he said, who was here the last number of years, was a big influence on him. Colin Moore taught him what's it like to be an everyday tight end and Division I college football player.
Yeah, and when you talk to the staff, another huge influence is a guy who's been in the league for a long time, now in his second season, is Jeep Christ, the tight ends coach. And this is a guy who's coached everything in the NFL, right? All the positions. His wealth of knowledge is as good as you're going to find in the country in college football. And when you ask the coaching staff, hey, what's Jermaine Terry doing when he's not practicing? They say he's hanging out with Jeep, right? He's studying, he's watching tape, he's learning how to be a pro. And I love that element of this coaching staff. They got a great mix of vets. You heard Deshaun Jackson talking about Burl Toller, some of the youthful guys. We talked to Aristotle Thompson at running back. The mix that Justin Wilcox has created here. We'll get to the defensive coaches as well. There's been some additions there. I really like it from a wisdom standpoint, a youthful energy, recruiting, and then you add in the extension for Coach Wilcox. If you're a Cal fan, I think you got a nice runway right now where the program's going.
So that's a turnover back to the offense as the twos drive stalled, and that was a sack for Miles Williams on the safety blitz. So we'll get back to the ones on offense against the twos on defense here, and the offense will start out at the 25. As you look at the offensive side, there is Kai Milner. So the offense wearing the blue. The quarterbacks are wearing the gold today, which means don't touch those guys.
Stay away.
You can't touch the guys in gold.
Well,
you need to keep those guys healthy.
Well, they've had a healthy spring, right? It was interesting yesterday talking to players. The first comment, every guy we talked to, hey, how's spring going? Is that, hey, we made it out healthy. Right, they know, right? Jermaine Terry was the guy who got banged up in this showcase a year ago being here for the spring. So I think they know the potential that this nucleus of this team has. Come out, get some good work in today, get into the offseason program.
And there's a number of guys being held out just as precautions. They could go. For example, Jackson Sermon's been dealing, the transfer from Washington, who's been dealing with a little bit of a tight hamstring. No reason to push it. You know what you got but with Jackson Sermon. But there's some guys you want to get to look at in your defense that are going to get an opportunity to play. And look, Sermon's going to be fine. If he had to play today, he could.
Yeah,
but no need to push it. It's Plummer for the end zone, airing it out for Hunter. And he tried to make a one-handed grab in the back corner of the end zone, defended by Tyson McWilliams.
So let's talk about this defense a little bit. I'll tell you what.
Let me stop you now.
Yeah.
Does this defense have the potential, Yogi, to be the best defense in the Pac-12 this year?
It's got the potential to be the best front seven.
Okay.
The back end we got to see. It's TBD, right? Rosters we know can change. I think they got a lockdown at one corner.
Lamaje
Hearns, right? What he did last year in the big game was
And they're really
amazing.
high on Isaiah Young, who came on toward the end of last year at the other corner.
Yeah, that's the part that's just a little unproven to me. But when you dive into their front seven, and then you add in the scheme and what we can count on from a Cal defense, which is accountability, very few unforced errors, missed tackles. I mean, this is an assignment-sound group. And they bring back, as you see, Damian Moore, the running back, but they bring back a guy you might say is the best interior defensive lineman in the league. Like, really excited about Brett Johnson coming back and being healthy. Heard Coach Wilcox talk about him off the bat. But yeah, I like this front seven trying to stop the run. You see it's the second team defensive front right now.
Damian Moore, the ball carrier, driving forward. And he's brought down by Kyle Smith. And also in there was Evan McLurkin. Walk-on corners just outside the 10-yard line, so the offense can get a first down inside the one. But Brett Johnson being back, they significantly missed him last year. Nice adjustment. Damian Moore, a tackle in space. Ryan Puskas, the linebacker, getting over there, but it was evident. I mean, you take Brett Johnson off the field, you're taking arguably Cal's best player. Was not available for Justin Wilcox last year.
Yeah, look, he was one of the top interior defensive linemen in the league last year, right? And I can remember being here for the spring showcase a year ago, and we're ready for him to come do the game, and it was the night before where he gets into his accident. And man, what a recovery for him. And I love what he gets to do every day, which is go up against Matthew Cindric, right? The center, who we know is going to be an anchor on this offensive front.
And if those who aren't familiar with the story, Brett Johnson on the eve of the spring showcase last year was involved in a scooter accident and had a broken hip that he recovered from. And he's with us right now. He's back in uniform today. And oh my God, the handlebar mustache. Brett, that's phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How are you feeling? That's what everybody wants to know. Coming back from what you were dealing with, where do you think you're at right now?
I feel fresh. I feel renewed. I feel great. I'm just so happy to be out here.
Is the handlebar mustache, is that like a game day thing? Or is it because you knew you were getting interviewed today?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you can say that.
So take us through the technique. How do you get the perfect curl on the end?
The perfect curl, so you have to get, I use a beeswax formula. You got to heat up, you got to kind of smush it between your fingers, and you got to work it into the mustache, and it will cool down and it'll hold shape, and that's how you get the nice curl.
That is so good. All right, so I love that you perfected that, but let's talk about your body. How have you gotten it back to the place where you were a year ago? Where are you when you compare that pre-accident to now?
I'm pretty darn close to 100%. To get back to where I was, just a lot of consistency, kind of lowering the intensity on some things, just kind of being a little more finesse in my training program.
For you, how would you describe the last year and the process you went through? Is it frustrating? Was it just difficult? How would you describe what you went through?
Frustrating, humbling, painful. It was a lot of those things, but through it all, I kept a good mental about it, and I persisted and didn't give up.
Since you've been back on the field, how much enjoyment have you taken from just your teammates, and what have they done for you in the recovery process?
My teammates are everything for me, truly. I love my D-line guys. We have so much fun together. They're the guys that kept supporting me throughout this whole thing, and they're the guys that I call my family.
Were there some tough moments for you along the way where you needed to lean on them to help pick you up?
Not necessarily. I obviously appreciated everything they do for me, but I was pretty self-sufficient with it. And that being said, I'm so happy that they were there with me, and I made sure that they came along with me on my journey.
There's a lot of experience on your defensive front. You guys talk about some goals for the season and how steadfast and dominant maybe that front seven could be in this league.
We talk about it every day. We want to be the best in the pack, and we know we can do it.
Yeah, well, we believe in that too. Deshaun Jackson's here. Did you go talk to him, and if so, did he make a comment on the stash?
I have not talked to him yet. I've seen him walk around. Maybe next time I see him, I'll go say what's up, and hopefully he gives me props for my mustache.
Yeah, he's like 15 yards away from you, so when you're done this interview, just take a left, run into him. I want to see this interaction, because he's going to acknowledge it, and this guy understands swag and drip and all those things better than anybody in the game.
Seeing his outfits, I can tell he's got some style.
With this defense and the way it's progressed, Brett, throughout the spring, what do you like most about the guys in your side of the ball?
I like how just ruthless we are. We go after it, we attack the ball, and we make plays.
Well, great stuff. It is so awesome to see you back in uniform, and hopefully everything goes smoothly and we get to see you strap it up in the fall and when the season kicks off.
Thank you so much, guys.
Brett Johnson, Cal defensive lineman, and as you alluded to, Yoke, it was last year, right, on the eve of the spring showcase when unfortunately he had that terrible accident. But as we can see, look at that right now. Look at that on TV. You can't beat that.
He's holding the pose.
This is great.
This is great. Hey, thanks, man.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Brett.
the rest
Appreciate
of
it.
the
so
Enjoy
much.
the day.
Absolutely.
You know, Roxy, what I really love about him is his background, right? This is a guy who was an everything wrestler. He's into martial arts, right? He really got into that in COVID prior to his
Guys
injury.
like that aren't supposed to move like he does,
That's
and they're
right.
not supposed to be built like that and do the things he's able to do. It's just, I don't want to say it's not human because he is, but you just don't see that.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Oh, there we go. A little turnover, sudden change.
So Kai Milner throws the pick, and Miles Williams having an impressive spring showcase so far. We saw a sack on, quote-unquote sack, because he didn't get to hit the quarterback on the last drive, and now the junior from Mansfield, Texas, who had an interception against Nevada last year, picks off Milner right there.
The secondary's always had a lot of success in terms of high-level guys going to the league. There's a standard there to a degree. Nice play. And I like this defense schematically, Rox. They do so many different things under Peter Sermon. Trying to find the right mix of guys. Right now, he's locking down that other safety spot opposite of Daniel Scott. And here we go. Let's see.
Right there. That's swag meets swag.
You got to make a comment on it.
I don't think the comment needs to be made.
Yeah.
I think it's self-explanatory.
Yes, well said, man. I love that. I love when young players get to a level where, you know, they're an All-American candidate, and then they meet the guys that have done it before them. There's always that moment where they go up to him like, whoa, I'm a little starstruck. And he and now Deshaun Jackson in Cal football, there's a world where they're in the same conversation.
Well, yesterday we were talking to Jack Plummer, and when he decided to transfer to Cal, Jared Goff reached out to him immediately, and what it meant to Jack Plummer to have that relationship, and Jared Goff reach out to Plummer.
Yeah, that's what makes college football so unique and special, right? The familial element. You always feel like you're connected to guys that did the things that you did, right? Whether it's the early workouts, the weight room, the training camp, adorning the same logo that you did representing your school. That was a cool moment between those two.
All right, so we're in period 5 right now, which is still in the scrimmage, and they're going to run about 35 plays during this scrimmage. And here's a look at some more guys deeper down the depth chart. In fact, Robbie Rowell, senior and a quarterback, the local kid from Lafayette, getting an opportunity now. But everybody getting a chance to work their way in, and the quarterback battle between Plummer and Milner will continue, and Rowell, who's been a program fixture for the last number of years, getting a chance right now.
Yeah, this is a guy who's kind of stayed the course.
And breaking free, that is Ashton Stredick, sophomore running back from Needville, Texas, breaking through and showing off his speed right there.
Talk about staying the course in this run scheme under Bill Musgrave. Angus McClure, the O-line coach. How about that? Body on a body. That's called outside zone at its best.
And that's also called a burst.
Yes.
That Stredick just showed off.
And look, explosive plays are, to me, you look at that and turnovers. That's like the biggest stat when you look at wins and losses in college football. And I think it's going to be a big focus, and I think Cal's going to take a big jump. And I think they'll be in the top half of the league this year in explosive plays if they can stay healthy.
Rowell looking for the deep ball, trying to get it to Mason Starling. And it's broken up by Isaiah Young, the corner we were just talking about. The junior who really came on the second half of last season and making 3 starts toward the end of the year.
Yeah, he made some big plays in that Oregon State game. It seemed like every time he got on the field, he made plays. This is one of the key positions, right? Defensively, they need somebody. I think when you think about some other areas where this team, right, we're entering a unique era right now. where you can add another player, I think the offensive front rocks. That's where I go. Can they find an offensive lineman here?
Screen for Stredick. And he is brought down inside the 30-yard line. Tyson McWilliams there defensively, along with a gang of Golden Bears. Caleb Elam's Orr there as well. But the portal, it's such a weird transition right now.
Yeah.
And you have to be in by May 1st if you want to be eligible for the fall. But we highlighted at the top, Cal's pulled 3 guys out of the portal, including Plummer, Jackson Sermon, and then Xavier Carlton's another one who seemed to play well at Utah, but for whatever reason decided, I want to go somewhere else and play. And Cal was heavily in the mix recruiting Carlton out of high school, where he was a 4-star recruit. His dad played at Utah. But Carlton had a sack last year for Utah. And, just knowing his game, Yogi, and seeing him in the conference the last couple of years, and you and I have gotten to watch him a ton, it just seems the Cal scheme is a better fit for his abilities than, not saying that the Utah scheme is not good because it's fabulous, and Morgan Scalley does an unbelievable job, but the skill set that Carlton has just seems it's a better fit in this defense.
Well, I think he's going to play all over the defensive front here for Cal, right? You're going to see him over the guard, over the tackle, sometimes coming off the edge. You look at Jackson Sermon and the depth that they have at inside linebacker. It's really impressive in terms of how he's going to add. But I think both of those players have a chance to be all conference. And you look at the biggest thing in the portal to me is, like, you can't miss. Right now, Cal's 3 for 3, right? Those 3 players, and they're huge roles, right? We're talking about inside backer, the leader, the voice of a defense. You look at him and Femi Oladejo and some of the other inside backers they have that have played a lot of ball for Cal. It's going to be impressive. On the edge, D linemen don't fall off trees, right? It just doesn't happen. This dude's going to be
Or especially ones that look like Xavier Carlton.
Exactly. We're talking about 6'6", 270. I mean, and this guy can move. I think just his wingspan. And there's so much quick game in college football. Can you get those hands up? Can you make a play? They're going to need him in South Bend in week 3 when they go play Notre Dame. And then, of course, the quarterback. And that's a big part of Justin Wilcox and the evaluation process. Not just trying to take bodies for bodies, but take guys that can impact the program.
And Cal will start at September 3rd as Marcus Arroyo feverishly taking notes, the head coach at UNLV, because the Runnin' Rebels will come to Memorial Stadium to open the season. Then UC Davis before that matchup in South Bend against Notre Dame. As Notre Dame's playing 3 of the 4 California schools in the conference this year. Obviously, the every year rivalry with both SC and Stanford. Now you throw Cal in the mix for Notre Dame. I guess Chip Kelly didn't pick up the phone quick enough to make it 4 for 4.
Hey, tell you what, out of all those games, I'm excited about the conference opener against Arizona, because we got Will Plummer's parents, as Will Plummer's recovering from a surgery that he had prior to their spring game. And then they got Jack. You know, we're going to be asking both SIDs respectfully, hey, where are the parents sitting? Camera's going to be locked on them.
Are they going to have the half and half jerseys?
Of course
like
they
the Sewell family
You
had?
have to. You have to. How don't you, man?
Kai Milner in running the offense. And the screen set up. And spinning is to Carlos Brooks. And he is brought down after a short gain. That's Kyle Smith in on the tackle, along with Ethan Saunders. But that matchup with Arizona, and there's a bad taste in the Cal mouth from that Arizona game from a year ago, just because of everything that surrounded the game and what Cal had to deal with. We're wondering if they'd have enough guys to field a team in that game in Tucson last year.
Yeah, let's hope we don't have.
No.
Let's hope you don't have to call that.
Oh my gosh, that was. I remember talking to Justin the night before, and we were trying to go over the depth chart and trying to figure out who he's got, and it was a very trying, challenging week that they were able to navigate through, because Cal had so much momentum going into that game.
Yeah.
And then you have the train come off the tracks, but then Justin got it back on, which was as impressive a feat, I think, as we saw last year, considering the struggles that Cal had early and all those close losses, which we talked about. Then they got it going, and they finish off the season by getting wins against Stanford and USC.
Yeah. Look, he's done a marvelous job of navigating this program and at times the face of a university through what's been a challenging time for everybody.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so excited about this program this year. And when you look at the Pac-12 North, you know, I've seen almost every school in spring. I don't think there's a lot that separates anybody, right? It's going to be very competitive, and you go back to what we started with the show with, Rox. 5 games. You could argue 5 plays, right? You talk about the Washington game. Jackson Sermon's the guy who made the play, right? He's on your team now.
And Damian Moore fumbled the ball 1 time all year.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, it was at that moment.
So everything that kind of could go wrong at times for the Cal Bears did last year. So if they can shore up some positions, like everybody has a hole or two. But I think Cal's going to be in position again to be in every single game.
So Kai Milner in the offense going up, the 1s against the 2s against the 1s. More of it straight ahead.
Harmon will probably try to squib it, and he does. Ball comes loose, and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rogers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose, but they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have scored, but the Bands are out on the
Amazing to think it's been 40 years since the play.
How many times do you think you've seen it or heard it?
Well, I've heard it millions of times. I was sitting in the stadium, and so was Joe Starkey, the legendary radio voice of Cal football. Is there a day that goes by, Joe, where somebody doesn't ask you about the play?
Roxy, we don't miss very often, believe me. It is amazing. I've had people come up to me all over the world and bring it up. Sometimes it just amazes you, the places that somebody will talk about the play. I've had it happen in Rome. I've had it happen in, I don't want to give you the whole list, but it's amazing how often somebody is aware of it and wants to talk about it.
Take us back to that moment when it's happening. Like, what's going through your head as the words are coming out of your mouth?
I think what scared me the most is don't screw it up, okay? I mean, like all of us, if you get a chance for a really special play, you don't want to mess it up and say the wrong things. And, for example, there were 2 other broadcasts of that game, but the other 2 broadcasts, radio and television, both quit on the play because they said it's not going to count. My philosophy has been, ever since I got into the business, the way I should have done it. And then when I watched the replay myself, I said, well, quit beating yourself up because you couldn't see half the laterals either. So, the band was already on the field.
Did you, because as a broadcaster, you're up high, right? Did you kind of see things happening before they were actually happening?
Yeah, I really did, because in the corner of my eye, I could see there was something happening in the right side of the field and on the near sideline, and at first you couldn't even conceive of what that would be. And then I began to realize that not only was the band on the field, but a lot of the Stanford players were on the field. They thought it was over, and there was a lot of reason to believe that. I mean, how often ever does that happen where after somebody kicks what appears to be a winning score with 4 seconds to go, that you're going to be cheering at the other end very shortly? That just doesn't happen. So there were a lot of reasons to, but the main thing was to carry it through to the end, be sure you finish it, and don't forget to nail Gary Tyrell in the end zone, the trombone player.
You know what's remarkable about that, Joe, also is, look, the play is the most iconic play in the history of college football. The game itself was a great game, and that's what kind of gets lost in the shuffle, because that was John Elway's last college game as the Stanford quarterback, and it was just a phenomenal football game, period.
Also, remember, by Elway losing that game, he never went to a bowl game. Okay?
Yeah.
That was a big deal, obviously, for him. And then you got Wes Hall, a sensational catch. Marette Ford, a sensational catch. Some really big defensive play. And then the great play by Elway on the 4th and 17 from his own 13 to give them the chance to kick that field goal. There were so many moments of magic in that game, it's almost hard to cover them all.
Well, speaking of magic, as we transition to the fall, Joe, you're going to get an opportunity to call a game at Notre Dame this year when Cal goes to play in South Bend. What's that going to be like for you?
For me, you have no idea what a big deal this is. I'm from the south side of Chicago. I'm an Irish Catholic from the south side of Chicago. I grew up my whole youth as a Notre Dame fan and had actually seen in person the last time Cal played there, and that's a very long time ago. So I'm really excited about going back to have Cal play Notre Dame. Obviously, we want to beat the hell out of the Irish.
Joe, it's great to see you. Enjoy the rest of the day, and can't wait to see you again running around in the fall and getting back to see Cal play at Notre Dame. That'll be awesome.
Great to see you, Roxy.
The legendary voice of Cal football. Joe Starkey is now in a quarterback. Zach Johnson completing that pass for a touchdown. going to Justin Richard Baker for the score.
Anytime Joe Starkey does anything, good things just continue to happen, right? Whether it's the play that you just referenced, the touchdown there, and Cam Good just goes in the 7th round to the Dolphins.
So a Cal player just got drafted. How about that for instant breaking news from Yogi Roth?
There we go.
and Cam Good, for me, I love watching him play, and he battled some injuries throughout his career, but I don't think he got the love that he deserved for what he did and being the playmaker defensively he was for Cal.
Yeah, look, I still remember the game against North Carolina, right? Like, this guy just continued to make plays, battle back, as you referenced, from injury. And, you know, calling games, you talk to opposing coaches, hey, who's the guy you have to stop on Cal's defense? Who do you have to be aware of every game? It's Cam Good. He was the guy, especially after Brett Johnson went down and didn't play last season. He was the dude. I think he's going to make a squad, a la Patrick Laird. I think he'll find a way to earn value and find a way onto an active roster this fall.
So the touchdown pass for Zach Johnson, the sophomore from Valencia and Hart High School, who oddly enough went to the same high school that produced Joe Kapp and Kyle Buller for Cal football fans. So the 4th different quarterback we've seen for the offense, Zach Johnson with a touchdown pass, as we welcome in Kevin Moen. Speaking of the play, and the man who started and finished the play, and every time you walk in, I know it's a refurbished stadium, Kevin, but do you still get chills every time you walk back into Memorial Stadium?
The essence is still here. They may have changed the seats and done a bunch of other stuff, but hey, this is Memorial Stadium, the same place we played. So it's fun.
How many times have you replayed that? And I'm curious what it was like that night, replaying it in your brain.
Well, I'll tell you, that first original night was confusing. I mean, nobody knew really what had happened, so trying to put all those pieces together took a little while, you know, to go back and kind of understand all the dynamics of what took place. But I will tell you, it was a fun night, though.
I can imagine. Yeah, what was it like sitting in your locker? Like, eventually, at some point, I'm sure you caught your breath that evening.
Well, I'll tell you, it took a long time, first of all, to get off the field. I mean, it was an hour-long progression to celebrate. Fans were everywhere, and once again, nobody really knew quite what had happened. So there was a lot of discussion going on the field. By the time we got to the locker room, there was a massive party going on in there. So that was fun. But I remember going to my locker, and the one time in my career I had about 50 guys from the media standing there wanting to talk to me. So it was a little overwhelming, actually. And then as that dissipated, we got to just kind of relax and enjoy it with my teammates.
Was there a point, Kevin, where you were like, had to take a step back and say to yourself, did that really just happen?
I've done that for 40 years now. You know, to look back at that, there were so many magical moments in that play, and then to run through a band and over a trombone player, yeah, you know, it takes a lot just to realize that actually happened.
Speaking of the trombone player, it's funny how you and Gary Tyrell have formed this unique bond and a friendship ever since you crushed him in the end zone off to our right.
Well, you know, first of all, I had to apologize to him just for roughing him up a little bit. And once I knew he was okay, we've kind of grown in this bond over 40 years where if there's an event, a special moment in Cal history or Stanford or the big game, we get to get together and go do our show with everybody.
So take us through that. I mean, we've seen that moment at the end so many times. When you leapt into the air, like, did you see him there? Were you leaping towards him? Did he just show up in the last moment?
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, by the time I got the ball the last time and realized, you know, hey, time was probably running out about being not tackled and that type of thing. So I just put my head down. And when I finally realized I was in the end zone, that's when I kind of started my celebration and didn't see him at all. I was celebrating and just he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, but it was good. It was a good hit.
What was the thought process before the play? Stanford kicks a field goal. There's 4 seconds left. Everybody's just assuming it's going to be this heartbreaking loss for Cal. What was the mindset for the kickoff return team heading onto the field?
Well, to be honest with you, there probably wasn't a big mindset beyond the fact that we had played a great game. They had come down, a magical drive by Elway, kicked the winning field goal, or what they thought was the winning field goal. So at that point, you know, Richard Rodgers was telling everybody, hey, just don't go down with the ball. But what exactly did that mean? Because first of all, nobody knew where the ball was going. So I kind of went out there with just a kind of a clear mind of, hey, let's just react to the moment and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened. You know, I got the ball and so happened to see Richard, and the rest is history. The last thing I remember is running over the band guy.
You mean that wasn't a play that Joe Kapp drew up, and that wasn't something you worked on all week?
Well, we'll give Joe credit. We'll give Joe credit for the fact that the bear would not die, and we just kept a positive attitude, and guys hustled. You know, Wes Howe was out there at the very end. If you watch this play, at the very end, he's pushing the Stanford guy out of the way and lets me cut behind him and through the band. And so it was, you know, I would give the team credit for going with the flow, executing perfectly, and getting it in the end zone.
And the crazy thing about it, Yogi, and Kevin, you can attest to this. You guys only had 10 guys on the field. Well, at least when the play started. When the play started, you only had 10.
Exactly. We were a little short. And once again, because it was, you know, when they scored, typically you're going to go out there with your kick return team. But Joe had called for the onside kick return team. And some guys didn't get that memo. So when we lined up, that's part of the reason where I was on the field. I had moved over, actually, to kind of just take up space because there was a huge gap. And so, you know, if we had the full allotment of guys, it would have screwed it up. Somebody would have gotten in the way.
Well, Kevin, I know you're going to be on this banquet circuit this upcoming year because it's been 40 years and it's a big milestone. People are going to want to celebrate it, so we're going to see you all over the place again, which is great.
Well, we'll be out celebrating it.
Kevin Moen, who scored the touchdown and started the play on the kickoff return in the 1982 big game, is Kai Milner at quarterback, and that will technically go as a sack because the pressure coming from Fatu Iosefa, but he was right there, front and center, at one of the most iconic plays in the history of the game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, how many times have we seen it, right? Growing up on the East Coast, I saw it a million times. Calling the big game a bunch. We see it all the time.
I was here. I was sitting in section H, which is down to our right, row 53.
You're a historian.
I was here.
You're a historian. You know who else is a historian now in this league?
Who's that?
Ashley Adamson.
She is?
More than a decade now in the Pac-12.
Milner floats one for the back corner. Did he get us? No.
Oh, you gotta make that.
He tried to keep the feet in and just couldn't hang on. On the deep ball right there, the intended target was Mason Starling, the JC transfer from the College of San Mateo. We have Ashley with us down from the field, Ashley Adams.
Country, and here we are today. We're telling all these stories about these players and these games and the history of the big game, but you're doing another story within this spring showcase. What are you doing today?
Yeah, so we're actually out here, and I know, Yogi, that you don't think I have many other talents, but I'm like a great A2. I'm a great field producer. I've been running around and getting people water. I mean, I'm really bringing it down here. I just want you both to know that. But no, we're out here for the diversity clinic. I don't know if you guys have talked about the officiating clinic that's been going on, the Pac-12 has been putting on over the last 3 days. This is kind of the culmination. As you've probably noticed, anyone who's watching on TV, there are 40 officials here, and it's really David Coleman. This is the first time that they've been able to do this, bringing together officials from all over who want to be at the Power 5 level, who want to be a Pac-12 official and beyond. And we were able to spend a lot of time with them yesterday at the Pac-12 Network studios, and Maia Shaka, who's the first female black NFL official, we got to sit down with her, and she's just amazing. And she said David Coleman was the first one who believed in me. He's the whole reason that I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So we've had a lot of chance to talk to officials. I'll tell you what, like, I think that's the story. We need to do more stories on officials because they talk about a job, a thankless job. They are out here grinding and trying to do their best, and there's a lot of amazing young talent and a lot of faces that we'll soon be seeing in the Pac-12, I'm sure.
There's a lot of teaching that's going on with these clinics as well. An opportunity. This is great. The Pac-12 opened the doors and trying to make this inclusive in terms of getting people from all over the country, no matter what your background is, and they're getting the on-field experience. And David's doing it creatively, Ash, because he's mixing in his regular officials with this new crop of officials he's brought in for the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing, as you said, I want to bring in, and I got to listen to some of the panels and the presentations yesterday, and there was so much knowledge that was being exchanged, not just the rules and, okay, this is where you want to be, and this is a lot of it was self-awareness and emotional regulation and how to handle certain situations. And they, you know, everyone that spoke said, I don't want you to have to make the same mistakes that we made coming up. And it's a long track. You start off as a high school official, and it's a long road to get to where everybody wants to be. So I think it's really cool what David Coleman and Merton Hanks are doing. And, you know, we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, and David said, we don't want to talk about it. We want to take palpable steps to be able to really make our officials here in the Pac-12 and beyond, give them opportunities and bring people in from all different walks of life, and we're going to be better.
Actually referenced Maia Shaka. She's mic'd up. Some other officials are mic'd up. You're listening to it. What are you hearing down there from some of the officials that are rotating on and off the field?
Well, I'll tell you what, I have not been listening to some of the instruction that's been going on. I've been trying to, I'll tell you what, there's like a who's who. There's a great vibe down here. I know you guys have been talking to a lot of different people, but it feels, this Cal Spring game feels a little bit different. Do you guys feel that? Is that just me? I've been to a few of these. Maybe it's because I'm not doing the icky shuffle. I feel more comfortable. But there's just a really good energy and a really good vibe. And you talk about the instruction that's going on, you can see right here, it's like real time, in the moment, people being able to get real feedback, and that is something special and something that you don't get very often. So my hat's off to all of the awesome Pac-12 officials who have taken time out of their worlds and their careers, because as you guys know, most officials, they got real day jobs to come and spend 3 days and help bring up the next group of officials here in the Pac-12 and the Power 5.
The only thing that's missing today is Yogi Roth suited up in a Cal
uniform. That's what I'm saying. I know.
With Yash.
I know. This is, I think, the first Cal game that both Yogi and I have done that one of us isn't wearing a Cal football uniform. So, I don't know about...
And I don't know how I should feel about it, considering I'm the only Cal alum of the three.
You know, I'm going to talk to Kyle McRae and see if I can get you something down here.
Oh, no, we're good. Nobody needs to see that, trust me. All right, Ash, great stuff. Look forward to seeing everything you're doing with this officiating seminar that David Coleman's running.
I appreciate you guys.
All right, in the meantime, we saw Ryan Glover at quarterback, and there are some of the officials that were brought in for the weekend, including a buddy of ours, Phil Rainey, who's a field judge who worked with us at the Pac-12 as far as stats. He's a local official here in the area. I've known Phil since I was a student here at Cal. That's how long I've known him.
Yeah, look, it's pretty
I threatened that I was going to take some shots at him today, but...
I know. Any receiver drop, we need a PI, obviously, right, Phil? But no, what I love about what Ashley described, it's the Pac-12 diversity, equity, and inclusion claim. And as you referenced, they're bringing in officials from all over the country, and they came in on Thursday, had a bunch of presentations. Yesterday, as Ashley referenced, they were at the Pac-12 headquarters. They had breakout sessions, they had different speakers, they had general sessions. They went out and had some fellowship in the evening, and now they're here, and they're rotating officials every 10 to 20 minutes and getting live action on the field, and as you see, live feedback, and I love it. Continue to develop the officials out here on the West Coast and within the game.
And getting the speed of what a Power 5 college football team plays with. It's one thing to officiate college football, the speed of the FCS level, or even the mid-major FBS level is just not the same. And speaking of speed and power, somebody that is going to protect the backside of whoever the Cal quarterback is going to be is the carry right there for Bo Tagaloa as we welcome in Ben Coleman, the junior offensive lineman, who right now, Ben, it looks like you're going to have the backside. You're going to be the blind side protector of the quarterback. You like the adjustment to left tackle?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
How's it been for you? Like, is it hard to kick out and go play that position?
I mean, it's been lovely. It's definitely different than playing guard. You know, so I'm glad that we had this spring. You know, I was able to make it out healthy, and that's most important above all things. And so I'm excited. You know, get on the field in the fall. You know, I'll be out there at left tackle. You know, we'll make it dance with the little bit smaller and quicker guys.
Take us through what the spring has been like. There's a lot of focus on the offensive line. What's it been like for the offensive line, and how have you seen the progress of that group?
Well, definitely we got a mixture of, you know, a couple old leaders, and me and Sendo, you know, B-Rum and Brian, and then we got the young guys, you know, so we've been excited because we've had the opportunity to work with those guys, and, you know, it's been a blessing, you know, being able to pull those guys under my wing, and as well as the other older guys, and watch them develop throughout the season.
Speaking of taking them under your wing, you're now in a leadership position, not just on the offensive line, but within the whole organization. How have you adjusted to that? What are some things that you've done to exemplify the leadership traits that you have?
Well, I think I just stay myself. I don't think it's that much of a difference compared to what my role was last year or the year before. Just make sure my big goal is to close that gap between the older guys and younger guys. Making sure that those young guys feel comfortable and confident, so that when they come in there and make plays in the fall, they can come in and make plays that they were made to do. We recruited them to come in here and make those good plays, and they have the talent. So just trying to build up those confidence for those guys, so that they can come in here and do what they was made to do, what they was born to do.
You made a transition early in your college career. You started on the defensive side and moved over to the O-line. What was that like for you, and what do you enjoy? I'm assuming you enjoy the O-line more because now that's where you are.
Definitely. Pops played O-line, and so that's kind of where my heart is. But it's kind of funny because I've always been a D-line guy. Linfield Christian, coming from a small school, I've always played both ways. Coach Burns is my uncle. That's my guy for life. So being able to play both ways, it's kind of unique, and it's helping me in playing O-line and D-line. When I got here, I made the transition to O-line, and I really found it, and that's where I really found that I love it most. And as soon as I got the hang of it, and I think anything you put your heart into, you'll find that you love it that much more.
What we love is having an O-lineman in the spring showcase. It's been Mike Safell for years.
Yeah,
now he's your coach as a graduate assistant. What's he done, and what about this position allows all the personality to come to the surface, man?
I think the best part of being, an offensive lineman is, having so many guys have to work together as one. So having Mike, a guy that was just playing with us a year ago, I remember specifically playing Stanford, and he honestly said he didn't know how good we was going to do. That COVID year, which was a tough loss for us that we avenged this past year, and so it's really unique to be able to play against him. I was playing guard against him for that game, and the next, coming in the next year, he had some unfortunate things happen to him. And I think it's even better for him because now he's a whole different person, and he's allowed to help us from almost a player perspective, because he just finished up a year ago. So we love to have him, and it's been a blessing to have him by our side, because he still has that young flair, Angus with that old school flair. So you mix those two together, it's one hell of a combination.
Bo Tagaloa just running in a touchdown for the offense. But you alluded to your dad, Ben, who played 9 years in the NFL. How much now can you pick his brain? I'm sure you did throughout high school about what offensive linemen are thinking, but now that's your position. How much are you leaning on him for advice these days?
Well, I think just an important thing that we've always talked about is separating dad from football. And I had to learn at a young age, and that was hard for me. Him trying to coach me and thinking, hey, this is my dad, why are you on me? But then now as I've grown up, I've appreciated so much more how hard he was on me, because now since we're sitting here at this point, it's benefited me the most. And now we have a chance to watch film and talk about what it is about being a tackle, really just go in the lab and tweak some stuff and add more tools to the toolbox, some tricks that he has up his sleeve, being an NFL veteran, so that's always a blessing, and too much is given, much is required. So, being an NFL kid, it's a lot that's required of me, and I'm always up for the challenge.
Finally here, man, as we see Angus McClure, one of the greats in this league, coaching all over offensive, defensive lines. Quarterback, right? It had been consistent here with Chase Garbers, a 4-year starter. Now we got a transfer, Jack Plummer. You got Kai Milner in his second year. What have you noticed from that group and those two?
I think I love the difference is between the guys as far as personality-wise and play style. We see Kai, doing the crazy stuff in high school, throwing stuff, but throwing passes behind his back on the goal line, turned around, and crazy things such as that. And, we have Jack, the traditional guy who's cool, calm, and collected, real laid back all the time. A bigger stature, and so I love the mix, especially having Zach and even guys his glove and to all the young QBs. I love all the different personalities, and I've bonded with the quarterbacks really well, just like I did with Seven. So it's been a blessing to have a new quarterback in here, and we've been able to get close and faster than I even thought. So that's always a great thing, especially with that left tackle quarterback connection.
Great to hear from you today, Ben. It was great to catch up this week, and look forward to seeing your progress and you getting after it in the fall.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys.
Ben Coleman joining us from the field, the Cal left tackle, as he is bounced out to protect, whether it is Jack Plummer or Kai Milner, to protect the blind side.
He's got a lot of personality.
Gets to do a lot of teaching with this offense, and especially with young receivers, new offensive line. And I think Bill Musgrave is really enjoying this group.
Yeah, I think there's something to college football. Whenever you talk to guys that come from the NFL, is the youthful exuberance excites them, right? Jeep Chris would say the same thing with Coach Musgrave. And I think this group, there's a big chip on their shoulder on both sides of the ball, and they haven't had a collective offseason where there's ever been any consistency, right? Their meetings last year were outside, right? In the stadium behind where we're sitting on the concourses, right? So there just hasn't been an element where coaches who are creatures of habit, they love that meeting room. They love that, as you said, teaching space. Now they have it. And there's some excitement, I think, when you have a change of quarterback. It doesn't happen very often in college. At least you hope it doesn't happen very often in college. And I think what we've seen today is the playmaking of two right there, Kai Milner, and the consistency on that first drive of the double move touchdown from Jack Plummer.
They're setting up for a 49-yard field goal here. Dario Longhetto, who in his career is 15 for 19 on his field goals. Last year was 11 for 14, was perfect on his extra points last year as the Newbury Park, California native. Here from 49, it's got the leg, and it is good for Dario Longhetto. So showing off the leg right there. And again, special teams with Longhetto back, Jamison Sheehan back. But over on the other side of the football, I think we talked about it earlier. You felt the potential, Yogi, that defensively for Cal, the front seven can be as good as anybody's in the Pac-12. The depth of the defensive line, but they might even have more depth at linebacker than they do on the D-line.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a ton of it today for a bunch of reasons. One, precaution. Two, also nursing some injuries. You referenced Jackson Sirmon. We've talked about him a few times already on this show, but Femi Oladejo, he's got the highest ceiling, I think, of the group. Right?
And he's not suited up today.
Exactly. As you see Jackson Sirmon, the son of defensive coordinator Peter Sirmon. But Femi Oladejo, this is a guy who played last year as a true freshman, got a lot of burn in that regard.
Blake Enzalatis over there, too, who is also being held out.
Yep, he's in that mix. He's a grimy, filthy backer who just loves getting in the mix and getting dirty. And then I look at not only Oladejo, but Nate Ricina, another guy who played as a freshman, transitions down from safety to backer. Trey Pasture transfers down from safety to backer.
He had a big scoop and score last year against USC.
Exactly. And Muelo Iosefa, who's also played a lot, right? This was the guy who burst onto the scene. They were so excited to get him. They also now have his brother playing in the secondary as well. So I think that group has a ton of depth, and they can play at times 2 linebackers, 3 linebackers. But what's great about it is all those guys are going to be on every single special teams. Every single one. You reference the scoop and score. Here's Trey Pasture. Boom. Picked it up, and how much they love that one up here for the weekender. Always get a nice crowd against the Trojans. And that game didn't need to happen, right? Credit to Mike Bowen and USC saying, hey, we want to play it. This one was postponed due to COVID, and Lincoln Riley, if you remember, he was hired prior to this game, so he got a chance to evaluate his team in that ball game.
The offense from their own 44, Robbie Rowell at quarterback. And this is Jaden Ott, and the freshman gets hit behind the line of the pitch. And Miles Williams is having a nice day here in the spring showcase with the first contact there.
You know, staying on the defense, you know, another position that I think they need to find a guy at is who's going to be the beast off the edge, right? I think they'll move Xavier Carlton all over. I think he'll play the edge. I think he'll move inside, as we referenced. But is Orrin Patu, is it his turn to be that guy? That's kind of what he's been. He's been a specialty player for them thus far. Of course, his brother is across the bay, Ari Patu, playing quarterback at Stanford. But his dad played with Justin Wilcox and Peter Sirmon at Oregon Sol. But I'm excited to watch him and Akili Calhoun. I mean, these are 2 guys that came in well regarded out of high school. Can one of those guys this offseason develop enough to be that guy that you got to pay attention to? You got to chip, you got to have your eye, you got to turn the pass protection to on a 3rd down on a critical moment in the game.
I'm going to give you another guy. He's not here yet. As you take a look at the defensive line and the size that Cal has up front. He's coming in the fall. He's going to enroll in June from junior college ranks with the College of the Canyons. Henry Ika Hihifo. He is an interesting guy because he began his college career in Nevada and was on the offensive side. Didn't necessarily work out, transitioned over to the defensive side, and he is a physical player that is kind of that hybrid player, and he could have an impact because I've seen his film from junior college. He just lays people out.
Yeah. And rarely do you see that type of transition.
Yeah.
But I think what might happen, look, Justin Wilcox is as skilled as anybody in the country when you're talking about defensive football, right? He and Peter Sermon is an incredible duo, kind of the brainchild of that defense. And they're going to put the best 11 on the field. So is there a world where they kick out one of their inside backers to be an edge rusher? We saw that with Devin Lloyd last year, right? He'd play inside backer for Utah, but on third down, he'd come off the edge. So I think they'll be okay there. Be fun to watch the transfer come training camp. You see, obviously, some stand-up ends right there. Xavier Carlton, he batted down a pass earlier in the scrim.
Could Oladejo be that guy used like Devin Lloyd was?
Totally. Iosefa, I think he's got some burst coming off an edge. Yeah, I think that we'll see some creativity because they've got the numbers on that side. You know they love bringing pressure from the secondary. Right? I mean, it's going to be fun to watch. 6th year senior, of course, Daniel Scott come off the edge. We saw with Hicks last year.
And who's going to be the other safety that lines up with Daniel Scott? Because that job is still up for grabs. Raymond Woody is involved in that conversation. The transfer from Florida State. Miles Williams, who's handled himself very well, has had a strong presence today. And the other interesting name is Craig Woodson.
Yeah.
As he's coming back from a knee injury, was probably going to be the starter last year, but because of the knee injury couldn't play. He'll be ready to go in the fall, and I'm wondering if he can factor in there.
Yeah, and I think even Hunter Barth. All right, this guy played a little bit. He's got the size. He's a core, they call it a core 4 on special teams. He plays all of them. A lot of depth, I think, at positions that'll fit for Justin Wilcox. A couple questions, but overall, this team, Roxy, having been around the league this past month, the Cal Bears should feel as confident as any team in the North to be able to compete for the North Championship.
And if things fall right, and the big question mark that we've talked about is the offensive line. I think that's going to be the area of concern. And, what about the quarterback? I think they're going to be fine at quarterback.
Agree.
For me, it's the offensive line. How does that group progress? Do they happen to get a guy out of the transfer portal? You never know because that thing is
ticking right now, though.
Exactly. You got to get in there by May 1st, and it's just so free-flowing. From day to day, you have no idea what could happen. And look, we don't know anything. We're just completely speculating, but there is that possibility. But there's some impressive young offensive linemen that need to develop. But that's the biggest area of concern for me when I look at Justin Wilcox's team. And if they get O-line play, and it's just okay, they could very well be the pick to win the North. I'm going to let you sit on that and think about what I just said.
I love it.
We continue from Berkeley, the spring game, spring showcase wrapping up in Berkeley. Pac-12 spring football is presented by Carvana, the new way to buy a used car. Wrapping up the California spring showcase at Memorial Stadium, and Jack Plummer vying for the starting quarterback job with Kai Milner, and here's the day for Plummer.
I was impressed, right? Command, all the things that we thought we would see. Accuracy, on time with the ball. And this is not a position in this offense where you can just play catch all day. You got to play quarterback, but you got to complete the ball downfield. He did exactly that. Big touchdown early to Maven Anderson. And I think he's excited, man. He's excited to be here, play Power 5 football in a league he grew up around in the Pac-12. Some fans got to watch Jack Plummer and him make his case to be the guy.
And this was the opportunity he was looking for. He wanted to go, as you talked about, what he told us yesterday. I want to be in the Power 5. I want to go back to the Pac-12. Well, he's here and he's competing, and he's going to have a good opportunity to be the Cal quarterback.
Yeah, I'm fired up for him, and I loved what I saw today. Command, poise, accuracy. Now it's going to be about the offseason and getting mastery around this system.
All right, Yogi was pontificating as we bring in Justin Wilcox about Jack Plummer's day. What did you see from one of your quarterbacks who's vying for that starting job?
I thought Jack did a nice job. I mean, real smooth operation out there, threw some good balls. I mean, that's what he's done all spring. Been very accurate, throwing the ball on time, and really looking forward to a great offseason.
And how about from Kai? Seemed to make some plays out there.
Same thing. I thought Kai threw some really good balls on time, and he also made some plays off schedule. I mean, a couple 3rd and 4th down conversions when things weren't perfect in the pocket, and we've seen that out of Kai throughout his career here. And again, he has gotten a lot better this spring, and really, really glad he's with us.
What else caught your eye today from your football team?
Yeah, I thought the perimeter guys made some plays on the ball. I thought the a couple DBs making big interceptions or PBUs. Some of the interior defensive linemen had some good individual efforts in getting the ball out of the quarterback's hand. And I was really, interested to see how the running backs would, finish runs and running through a tackle, breaking a tackle. I thought they did a good job there. So, at the end of the day, you're looking for contested plays when you're playing yourself. You want to see earned plays on both sides of the ball. I thought we saw some of that.
So, Coach, what goes on now for you? We know the portal only has a few hours left. What do you guys do as a staff? And then where do your players go heading into summer workout?
Yep, so they got dead weekend finals coming up. So they'll heal up from spring ball. I mean, we put it to them pretty good. They had a really intensive spring football, and they'll have some time to focus on school, finish finals in a couple weeks, and then we'll start our off-season program towards the end of May. But staff-wise, we'll be out on the road recruiting, hitting it hard, and looking for the next great Cal Bears.
And the important thing always is to make it through the spring healthy. I have to imagine the way you examine your spring practice and everything through this period that you have to be satisfied with not only the work you put in, but that everybody for the most part came out healthy.
Yeah, we did, and we had a few bumps and bruises during spring, but thankfully nothing too serious. And even today we were limited at a couple positions, which slowed us down. But I thought the guys did a really good job of battling through some of those kind of nagging injuries to make sure they still got their work in.
Speaking of getting work in, we saw Brett Johnson out there. We also saw his mustache.
Yeah.
How exciting was it to see the stash back out on the field?
Yeah, I don't know if that helps Brett. If it does, if that makes him, feel a little more explosive or more manly or whatever it is, I'm all for it. So it's just nice to have Brett back out there on the interior D-line, man. He's a handful.
Yeah, well, a guy who was a handful in this league but now is back on the field with you was Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
What was it like when he walked out and was around some of the guys? Where'd their eyes go?
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun came yesterday, and it's been – I was here when he first got here, his freshman season, 2005, I believe that was, and I just remember how electric that guy was in person. I've never seen somebody so fast on the football field, and it's funny because he's played so long in the NFL. He's had such a great career, and the odds are he's still the fastest person in the city right now. I mean, he is just – he's that type of athlete, man, big play guy, and it was great having him back around our team.
How important, Justin, is that connection to bring Deshaun Jackson? Marshawn Lynch is always around the program.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers involved. What does it mean to you to have those former greats being around the program?
Yeah, we love having them here, and it's been tough, last couple of years with COVID and some of the restrictions in place in different parts of the world. But having those guys back is everything. Our players see those guys' names on the wall. They see all the highlights, and it's really cool to have them, in person because they're such good people. And Lorenzo Alexander was here and talked to the defense before the scrimmage today, and just what he's all about. And there's a number of those guys, and as for all those great NFL players who've done so much, there's also just so many alumni here that are supporting our guys, both on and off the field, and mentoring them. And we're really appreciative for all those guys, and really looking forward to having more and more of them around now that we have got more freedom to be in person.
So, Coach, if you just kind of look over your left shoulder, there's fans, there's people out on the field. What's that like, just to kind of see this now with people in the stands?
It was great. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't quite sure, but what a turnout, man. Beautiful day. I mean, the setting is unreal. The temperature is perfect. Got some football going. Got people out here. I think there's some food and drinks for everybody. It's just awesome.
Well, it was awesome you could spend so much time with us this week, Justin. We really appreciated everything you've done to help us this week, and can't wait to see you get after it in the fall.
Appreciate you guys. Go Bears.
Justin Wilcox, the head coach of the California Golden Bears. Still more we got for you. We'll wrap it up. The Spring Showcase on Pac-12 Network. A successful, I should say, California Football Spring Showcase with Yogi Roth and our Pac-12 Network crew. Roxy Bernstein with you in a fun day at Memorial Stadium. A great crowd, beautiful day, tremendous environment and energy, all building to this. This is the schedule for Cal coming up. It kicks off with UC Davis September 3rd, then UNLV, and then to South Bend, Notre Dame before conference play starts right here against Arizona.
I like how the schedule's laid out, right? There's intrigue and storylines everywhere, right? You've got Dan Hawkins and UC Davis in week 1, Marcus Arroyo, week 2, 2 guys that have been in the Pac-12 conference before.
Marcus Arroyo coached here.
That's right, yeah, and now they kick it off, right? And then it's at Notre Dame. And I love that for the team in the offseason, right? There's a great focus around how we can start fast, right? Can we get out 2-0, then go on the road for a huge game across.
Is going to be the story, and it has been since Justin Wilcox has been here. He's a defensive guy, and he's got so much talent, speed, and athleticism on that side of the football.
Well, it's a thing that you can always count on, right? I mean, no matter what they do here in the next, however many weeks, do they add to it? Do they try to get a corner in the portal, whatever? They've always been an incredible developmental program on that side of the ball. You know the scheme's going to be there. Then you add in possibly this quarterback in Jack Plummer and the explosive playmaking ability of unproven but very capable receivers. You look at it and then how the schedule lays out and you say, okay, they might be in pole position for that run that you've referenced in the back part of their schedule. Well, things have to bounce their way, I know that, but it's not as though they have to be dramatically lucky. They have to be efficient, which is exactly what they've been for the most part. No bad turnovers, no unforced errors. Just play smart football. And that's what Justin Wilcox said day one. He said, our identity will be smart and tough. We can count on that. Now, can they stretch the field? If they can, with this quarterback, they'll have a chance.
And I guess the good news is also when you look at that schedule, you don't see Utah. That's one of the misses in the crossover. And that's probably the right team to have as your miss.
Yeah, I think Utah is the leader in the clubhouse, the thing that we can count on for sure right now in this league, coming out of spring ball. A lot of dialogue around a lot of other competitive teams, of course. But Utah is the defending champ. To me, it's their league. It might be their turn in terms of taking control of the league after last year and then potentially this year. But there's not a game that we look at in the Pac-12 collective schedule that you say, it's not going to be a fun game to call. I can't wait till we get to September, bro.
And if you're a Cal fan watching this, how excited should you be?
You should be pumped, and it should be grounded confidence. You shouldn't be the traditional, I'm hyped up because my season's about to start. You should say that you got a team, you'll compete in every game, but we'll be able to compete for a North Championship. And I think it's realistic that they can find themselves in Las Vegas. They can figure out a couple things in this offseason.
For Yogi Roth, our producer Scott Farrier, director Tom Satursky, and our entire Pac-12 Network crew, Roxy Bernstein saying so long from Memorial Stadium. The California Football Spring Showcase all wrapped up. Can't wait to see you until the fall.